Word on Wednesday. Good evening. This is Dr. Tait, pastor of the Village Church. Welcome to the Master's class for this fall 2022. Wherever you may be, hope that you invite some folks to join us this evening. I want to just thank you again for supporting us and for being part of the Village family. You could be anywhere in the country and in the world. So thank you so much for your support. Uh, and I know we're getting back in the swing of things. And I hope you've had a good summer. Some of you have been on vacation. Some of you are perhaps doing various things. You know, when the seasons change, we also sometimes have to get ourselves in order. I just want you to take the opportunity to like and share on Facebook. You can share it. You can send people also YouTube. We're on YouTube as well. And just invite them in to our master's class this fall. Listen, we also want to pray for the people who are in the Florida area, particularly because of Ian, the hurricane. That is, I think it was last time I saw the news this evening, I think it was a Category 4. My brother lives in Tampa, Florida, so pray for him and his family. And all the families there in Florida, and also Cuba and Puerto Rico. These places have been hit pretty hard. Okay, so we're going to begin with prayer, and then we're going to get started tonight. And listen, please like and share and invite some people in tonight to our master's class Bible study. God, we are grateful for another day. We're just taking a deep breath as we gather ourselves. Perhaps we've been working all day, perhaps dealing with our children or various other things. And the day is still not over, so there's perhaps things left for us to do. But help us to take this moment to at least learn and to study your word in order to live by it and find the principles that can help us to thrive in life here and now. This is my prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. Listen, I'm so excited to be here, and I hope you've had a good weather wherever you are. This is our second session of the master's class, and simply I'm calling this session authentic change can happen. Authentic change. There's a lot of change that happens. That doesn't mean it's all authentic, but authentic change. Because sometimes we hear pundits and politicians and even preachers and other folks talking about things are changing, and when you discover a lot of times that things really haven't changed, they remain the same. But we're talking about authentic change that can happen within you. Look, I want to read this text tonight. It's found in John's Gospel. It'll be up on the screen. John chapter 4, verses 1 through 15. I'm reading tonight from the New Living Translation of the Bible. And that's John chapter 4, 1 through 15. Good to see you, Elder Jackie. And those of you who are joining on, if you join on, I will definitely try to put up your comments or questions you may have so others can see them as well. So here we go. So afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city gate near the sheep gate was the pool of Bethesda, with 5 covered porches. Listen at this scene, this place, pool of Bethesda, had 5 covered porches. And crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on these porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him, he knew he had been ill for a long time, and he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" I can't, sir, the sick man said, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles. Someone else always gets there ahead of me. Jesus told him, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. Instantly, the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. But this miracle happened on the Sabbath. So the Jewish leaders objected. They said to the man who was cured, you can't work on the Sabbath. That's something. The man was healed, and they talking about he can't work on the Sabbath. And the law doesn't allow you to carry that sleeping mat. But he replied, the man who healed me told me, pick up your mat and walk. Who said such a thing as that? They demanded. The man didn't know, for Jesus had disappeared in the crowd. But afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and told him, now you are well, so stop sinning, or something even worse may happen to you. Then the man went and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had healed him. This is a powerful story. Perhaps many of you have heard it before, preached, or in some other study. But it's a powerful story that hopefully it will resonate with you as we go along tonight. And listen, remember last week, this whole idea of authentic change can happen. Here's a man in the story who was at a place called Bethesda, where there was a pool. And as the sort of mystery or mythology around this story was that when the water was bubbled, and the bubbling of the water was, some stories say it was an angel who would come and sort of stir these waters on some kind of interval. Wouldn't do it every day, but once, maybe twice a year, something like that, would come. And this was like when this angel would stir this water, the waters would become healing. And so if you got into the pool when the water was bubbling, whatever you were sick from or ailing from, you would be healed. Of course, this man had been there 38 years. You can imagine when you listen to his reply when Jesus asked him, would you like to get well? And he says, I can't, because I have no one to put me in the pool when the water bubbles. He didn't seem to be able to, or at least in his mind, he wasn't able to get up and get to this pool when it was bubbling. And he was expecting that someone was going to help him. At least he thought that. And because he didn't get the help, I guess he thought he should be getting, he just resigned himself to being on this mat and lying there sick for 38 years. It's a long time to be sick. It's a long time to be sort of mentally functioning in a way that prohibits you from being your best self. That's 38 years is a long time to not reach the kind of potential or the dream or the vision you have for yourself. 38 years. Think about that. And a lot of times when those things happen, it's debilitating. It destroys your confidence. It frustrates you. And Jesus didn't ask him what's wrong because he knew what was wrong with him. It's almost like Jesus asked him, what happened to you? It's like, would you like to get well? Would you like to get, what a question. It seems to be harsh because here's the me, you think Jesus wouldn't have been asking that question. It's apparent that this that this man wasn't well. But I think Jesus was asking a deeper question, the same thing he asked that I'm pushing at. Do you really authentically want change to happen in your life? Now, think about this. We talked about this a little bit last week in terms of where real change begins. When you look at this man, because Jesus, it's interesting when Jesus was having this conversation. It was this Jesus was helping him to think through, helping him to realize some stuff in his mind that perhaps he hadn't thought about before. And so I asked the question last week: how do you think real change happens? When you look at this story, even this man who had been in this condition for 38 years, how do you think real change happens? Um, the text says in verse 6, when Jesus saw him, he knew he had been ill for a long time. He asked him, would you like to get well? That's a question that's directly going to how you think. So I told you, we talked about last week, how does real change happen? Real change happens in your mind. It happens with your beliefs. It happens with your mindset. That's what real change is. It happens with your mindset, the way you think, and it also happens with your perception, how you perceive things, perceptions and thoughts. These are sort of our sort of mental interpretation of life and experience. And they are more important than actuality. The way you think about something, the way you perceive something, your thoughts about something. It's even we call this a master class because a lot of Christians, many, I can't say all, but many think that the only book that they can read is the Bible. And of course, a lot of times they don't even study that in terms of critically because they don't ask hard questions. Some people have been taught that you shouldn't question anything. It's not that you shouldn't question God. I'm not sure where they got that from because you just read the story of Moses and other characters about they had questions for God. Um, the thing is we have to oftentimes when we really want authentic change, and it can happen, but it starts in the mind. So you have to work on your mindset, the things you think about and how you perceive things, your perceptions of reality. Um, for some people, reality is very narrow. Particularly, like, for instance, if you've grown up in a particular neighborhood, in a particular section of town, if you've never really traveled outside of that neighborhood, not even to go across town, your perception of life is narrowly focused on what you have experienced in that particular context, and it can be very narrowly focused because you haven't seen other people or other places and been able to experience life in a way in which it opens you up to thinking about things differently. So real change, it happens in your mind. And when Jesus was talking to this man, it's so exciting. He was appealing to the way this man had been thinking for a long time because he asked him, do you want to be made well? He asked him, did you want to be? And that's the first you have to think about it. Do you want to be? And of course, this man's first thing to come out of his mouth, I can't. That's a mindset. When you think that you can't do something, you already have decided what your action or fate will be when you say the word or those two words, I can't. And that's what this man said. He says, I can't. Let's not even get into these reasons for I can't, because we can come up with a number of reasons why we can't do something. But once, if that's your mindset about approaching life and about seeing authentic change happen in your life, in your community, even in this country, and I know I've been very cynical, and I am still very critical of the United States and a lot of the policies that get passed off as helping people, which sometimes it really hurts people. But just because I am critical and critique the country doesn't mean I don't want the best for my community or for my country. I think it takes all of that, and perhaps we can meet and agree on a lot of different things if we really look at them and how these laws and policies really affect people, and just the way we sort of are to each other. So the thing is the way you think is so important. It is life itself in terms of it can determine so much about you and about what can happen in your life. How you think can change so much in your life and about what's around you. Like uh, we're studying about this person named Jesus, and he's teaching us this lesson about authentic change and how it can happen. Your mindset is something that you can change. The way you perceive something, you can change. And I'll share this with you. We've had conversations. Um, I'm not sure what happened here. I hope I'm not me. I hope that you all are hearing me. Um, yeah. Um, Thanks, Elder Jackie. Um, some people, they haven't they have a struggle with um, sexuality in terms of how they think of other people and how they express their sexuality. Um, but the thing is, it's the way you think about people. There's nothing. Some people are afraid, and some people have derogatory ways in which they talk about sexuality instead of really thinking about these are people who may express themselves in a way that you may not or I may not understand, but it does not mean that it's evil or somehow we've attached a lot of different things, or it's ungodly, but it also is a matter of a mindset of a changing the way you think in order to embrace the individual, in order to love, in order to even understand. And even at times, even if you still have some challenges or quite don't disagree, you and I, we cannot really genuinely love people when we have such judgmental spirits, and so that's also about changing the way we think. You think about this country in the roots of racism and classism and sexism, xenophobia, and all the phobias. I mean, people have been taught certain things that's in their minds, and a lot of times those things are not true. But if you can change your mindset, your perception of something, then you can have really authentic change and approach things in a totally different kind of way. Um, so real change, um, it happens in your mind. That's what real change. It happens in your mind, and when it happens in your mind, then it expresses itself in your physical body. It expresses itself in the way you may determine to do a certain thing. it expresses itself in a lot of different ways. I mean, if you even just think about this, even if you decided today to get up and say, this is going to be a good day, that can make the difference in how your day goes and how you flow throughout the day versus if you get up and say, man, it's raining outside. I know it's going to be a bad day. Because that's probably what you're going to end up experiencing is that, yeah, it's probably going to be a bad day because you said it. So listen, there are at least 5 ways to change your mindset for authentic change. And I wanted to share those with you, and then we'll be finished for tonight. There's at least 5. They're probably more than this, I'm pretty sure. But if you want to change your mindset for authentic change, you have to minimize and challenge your belief system that limits you. Some of us have belief systems that limit us. It prevents us from thinking uh, as like outside of the box, thinking creatively, thinking a bit differently. Um, some particularly because this we are a Christian church, but a lot of times Christians can be narrowly focused that everything's a sin, everything is wrong. You're going to hell if you do this, you're going to hell if you do that. So much so that they create hypocrites because it's hard to live up to all these strictures and rules and all the things that people come up with that you shouldn't be doing if you are a Christian. Sometimes I don't know where people come up with all of this stuff. Um, and it's different stuff, but you have to minimize and challenge your belief system that limits you. Um, I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, either in the sermon or Bible study, that I was terrified by thunderstorms, and I've changed a little bit over the years. But there were things, I was told, about when it's thundering and, the devil's beating his wife, all this crazy stuff. And it's about weather. It's not about the devil doing anything. As a matter of fact, I think I very rarely talk a lot about the devil because I think we give the devil or Satan too much credit for decisions that we make or decisions that are controlled by humans that have nothing to do with the devil or Satan. I mean, I think it's an easy way to not deal with, either a collective responsibility or individual who are making decisions to do something that is evil. And so, uh, but you have to me you have to if you're going to have authentic change or change your mindset for authentic change, then you have to minimize and challenge belief systems that limits you. It's even when you grew up and someone told you that you weren't good enough or that you weren't smart enough or and we've heard things in various communities, black people don't do this and you can't do that, or if you're Asian you can't, if you're Hispanic you can't do that. And sometimes we grow up, we limit ourselves because we take in these beliefs that somehow they're not true, but if you believe them long enough they become true for you. Number 2, you have to face what face your fears, should be your fears. Um, you have to face your fears, um, and that's an important thing, um, that you have to do. Face um, uh, your fears. I mean, we all have fears. Face what you fear. It is important that you do, because if you never face it, you will never be able to get past it. Uh, um, you have to deal with the things that you are afraid of, that it cause you to have fear. And then number 3, you have to change your perspective. How do you see a thing? Like somebody say, is the glass half full or is it half empty? There's another saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's a perception thing. You know, sometimes you can perceive something to be so challenging, so huge, so just almost beyond your reach that then your perception is nothing can be done because it's too huge. So sometimes you have to break things down in pieces and see them in pieces. It's just changing your perception. Doesn't mean that the problem necessarily changes, but the way you approach it. All right. Number 4 is cultivate your self-talk. I talk to myself all the time. I don't know about you, but I do it. I'm not crazy. No. But I'm sure everyone talks to yourself. Sometimes it's unconscious, sometimes it's conscious where you're silent and you're having a conversation with yourself. And some of us, like me, I talk out loud to me. So, but you have to cultivate your self-talk so you don't limit what's possible. You have to talk to yourself. I used to thought it was, frivolous to have mantras or sayings and repeat them. But it's important because it helps to center you. It helps to focus your mind on something that's very attainable, something that's reachable. You have to cultivate this sort of the self talk so you don't limit what's possible by saying things like "I'm too old to go back to school," or I'm a woman, so I can't do that. Or I'm black, so that's not possible for me. Or whatever, I don't have enough money, so that can't happen for me. Or I don't have enough education, that can't happen for me. I have enough experience. All of this you have to cultivate self-talk that so no limits is placed on what's possible for you. That's why Jesus asked this man, "Do you want to get well?" And we have to create a community of support, right? Create a community of support. When Jesus spoke to that man, uh, he told him in verse 8, he said, "Stand up," right? And he said, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." Man probably never thought about the possibility until someone told him it was possible. Jesus told him, "Listen, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." It didn't even say that Jesus touched him, he spoke to him. Power of his word, the power that generated us a new mindset in this man. And the verse 9 said, instantly the man was healed. It's like as Jesus was speaking, telling him what to do, he was thinking in his mind, "Oh, I can do this." So instantly he was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began to walk. And this happened on the Sabbath. So the Jewish leaders objected. And you got to understand, some people, they won't be very thrilled about your new mindset and the way you're perceiving life. They'll think that they will say that you're out of order. It may not be anything about the Sabbath, but they'll, they'll say you're out of order. you know, but you can't let that stop you from achieving, from this authentic change that you want to see in your own life. It's because people may not like it, or you didn't do it at the prescribed time or in the prescribed way. You have to embrace this mindset that helps you to see the authentic change in your life. And sometimes that's very radical because you think so differently. And I'll say this and I'll be closed for the night. If one thing we learned or should have learned through COVID is that you don't have to be in the physical building in order to be the church. But some people think that that's the only way that you can be the church is by being in a building because they identify with being a Christian as going to a place. And they haven't embraced the whole idea that Jesus, yes, he went to the temple on occasions, but he spent most of his time out amongst the people, right? And that the church is who we are, is what we are collectively, and what we do in the community and in the world, and the people's lives that we affect, not by what we say so much, but by the people that we are, and the love that we show, and the care and the justice that we bring. This guy was healed. His authentic change came when something happened in his mind that made him think that he could actually stand up, pick up his mat, and walk. All right, that's it for tonight. Listen, I want to give you an opportunity to sow a seed in our ministry. I want to thank all of you who support us on a regular basis, and in with your tithes and your offerings. But we just ask you, even tonight, if you want to share and give an offering, you can give it through Givelify, or you can give it through Cash App, and you can go to our website, which is at the bottom of the page here. And give it there. And also, I want you to remember that all of your gifts are tax deductible. All of your gifts are tax deductible. And so, and I want to thank you for sharing whatever gift you want to give, how big, how small, the village. I want to thank you. Also, don't forget, every Sunday we are on at 9 a.m. for worship, and then we come back again at 11. And don't forget as well that we have changed our circle of prayer. We meet now on Wednesday evenings at 6:15 p.m. You can get the access code and the number from our website, and also a lot of this information is on a lot of our social media. We want to continue to pray for those who are in the midst of Hurricane Ian, I think it's called. And just be mindful, how these weather patterns affect us all. And just continue to pray for people in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and certainly Florida, and pray for each other. Let's close in prayer. God, I thank you for this time we've had to share tonight. I pray, God, those of us who are seeking authentic change, we realize that it starts in the mind and the way we perceive life itself. Thank you for this example that Jesus gave of this man who, after 38 years, his mindset and his perception changed about what he could be. And God, I pray tonight that we will take his example and stand up and pick up our mats and walk. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Listen, have a blessed evening, and we'll see you on Sunday and next week. God bless. Word on Wednesday. Word on Wednesday.